Welcome to Inside the Upside Down and why historic exploration like Oak Island and other historic locations matter to us. Coming up next. Welcome to Inside the Upside Down. I'm Mike Ricksecker, author and ghostorian. With me is Shauna Wankel, our chat shenanigator, and quite a good writer in her own right.
I'm working on it.
Well, you're in a few books now.
Yeah, try and write a book. So.
You are.
I will.
You will. Well, yes, I am tired tonight. That came out very clear in Edge of the Rabbit Hole. Sorry about that. And I was falling asleep, moments before. I was sitting on the couch trying to get all of this show together, and I was crashing out trying to do it. So
it's been a long weekend.
It has been. So, but we got interesting stuff coming up. So, why historic exploration and exploring historic locations matters to us as we investigate the paranormal and all the different things that we do as we're involved with this industry community, what have you. And I thought I would use Oak Island as an initial great example of that, even though Shauna and I aren't investigating Oak Island ourselves.
Would love to.
Yes, would absolutely love to. But there's some really, really interesting things going on there. And what I like is that they're discovering an alternate history on there with all the different things that they're doing. There are some legends and presumptions about what Oak Island had been, and for those of you that aren't familiar with it, and I know Adam Tillery is out there lurking somewhere watching both us and Oak Island at the same time. And this is not a plug for the Curse of Oak Island, by the way. We're not sponsored or anything by them. We're just using it as an example here. But for those of you that don't know, so Oak Island is that island, you may have heard of it in passing or somewhere, where there is the quote-unquote infamous money pit. Buried somewhere, presumably somewhere down deep within there, is some sort of treasure or something that discovered a couple hundred years ago by three kids, that they found every 10 feet going down into this hole were these wooden planks, and they were curious as to what the heck was down there. They kept digging and digging and digging. They came across this stone tablet at one point with some weird writing on it, and talking about just beneath here there's basically there's buried treasure. And so they kept going down and the whole thing flooded out. So ever since then, there have been numerous teams that have gone onto this island to try to dig up that money pit. And throughout the course of history, there's been what the curse is. Basically, 6 people have died. But people have sunk millions and millions of dollars into this location to come up with, I won't say nothing, but little. At least not what they were looking for. They didn't find the prize. Lot of different theories as to what's down there. Captain Kidd's, treasure, William Shakespeare's manuscripts, Marie Antoinette's lost jewels, even some rumors of the Knights Templars being down there, really because of the original, what they call the HO rock, looked like a Greek writing on it, and then a Templar cross that was on there. And so they've been following these things up. And so, as I explained, I could have been showing you the island. There's the actual island. It kind of looks like an elephant. Mm-hmm. And so you can see there kind of like where the elephant's cheek would be, that yellow area. That's basically where the money pit is, and it's kind of blown out like that because they have a lot of machinery in there as they're digging down. Years ago, I have let's see, one of the historic photos here as they're trying to dig into the money pit. I mean, even one of our presidents, FDR, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, was on the island trying to dig for this stuff. So it's not just people kind of flying by the seat of their pants. There's a lot of stuff going on there. So these are the couple of guys that are there now, Marty and Rick Lagina. So they've sunk millions of things. It's essentially bought the island, or at least most of it. I think like 90 or 95% of the island is theirs. And they've come across a lot of interesting things. I think last season, they just started season 6. I think last season they probably found the most stuff that they ever had before, including this interesting Templar cross. And I mean, this was found out in the Smith's Cove area, not actually in the Money Pit itself, but it's hundreds of years old, and so it's like all of those rumors of were there ever nice Templars on there, that might actually be true. It was one of those where it's like, okay, there may have been some of the natives that may have gone on there, British, sure, and they have found a lot of British coins and things like that. There are some historic people that were on there, Samuel Ball, a privateer from back in the 1700s, Captain Anderson. So people like that, but they're like the Templar cross that predates that. They were finding Spanish coins out in the swamp, and so it's like it's like an alternate history that's being discovered.
Yeah, I honestly didn't even know about it, and because I work and I try to get some sleep, and I get so anytime I find out about stuff like this, I'm always, it's always cool. I was kind of binge watching earlier because it was on, and it's really, really interesting. And yeah, God, I would love to go on that island. Big time.
See Adam Tillery down there. Holy shamoly, that's the dude with the metal detector. His accent and some of his comments are just funny. I like the last one, or last season, where it comes across the piece of pewter. He's looking and says, I know what that is. It's pu'er. It's pu'er. The archaeologist was getting on him. He's like, pewter.
Pewter.
Yeah. So so I know there's Tillery. Yeah. Tom McNicholas. They got a good history to work with on the island. Yeah, and it's something that they keep uncovering. Like more and more as they go along, they keep uncovering different facets of that history. That's just it's different. Nobody ever thought that. Sure, there were legends and rumors, and people would guess at stuff. But they're starting to actually confirm some of those things that were just thrown out there as legends, and the what we call like the archaeological community just didn't believe. They're like, no, you don't want to bring us something that's English or whatever, because that's where a lot of the British went, especially after the Revolutionary War. Bring them some of that, sure. But you start talking about, the Spanish being on there, or Knights Templars, or anything like that, anything that, dates way back. They found a couple of bones on there, dating into like the early 1700s. One was European, the other was Middle Eastern. They're rewriting history, which as we delve into the paranormal, I think is important. We go into a lot of these different haunted locations that they're historic, but a lot of the stories that they tell, that they want you to know, aren't exactly the real story.
And it's important to get the real story out there. Urban legends are fun, for story time, and, kind of keeps things interesting. But sometimes the truth is even more interesting than the legend. So the truth, can unlock some mysteries. An urban legend can just embellish it a little bit, but the truth is what unlocks it. So, I like urban legends just as much as the next person, but all an urban legend does for me is make me want to find where the truth is. So, and we've done that.
Yeah.
With Swift Mansion.
Swift Mansion. There you go.
That's a good one.
Yeah, Swift Mansion's a good one. So if we go from there to, where are we at? Okay, the Gore remains. So yeah, Swift Mansion, which everybody knows is the Gore Orphanage. And it's not. There was never a Gore Orphanage. And I know we've talked about this on the show before. But yeah, this is one place that it was just urban legend after urban legend after urban legend. The only nugget of truth was it did actually burn down, but not anywhere near the way they said it did. With, Old Man Gore, which, there never was an Old Man Gore. It's just the name orphanage was appended after the word gore on the street sign years later. And, there was an orphanage that was up the hill, but that was the orphanage of the Light of Hope orphanage. And it was just very, very different from what the truth was. And really what happened here, as we go back into it again, was... there were families that lived in this house. This house was never part of the orphanage. It was abandoned when the orphanage was put in up the hill. And you see these children in there, and these children died of diphtheria. Very, very sad. And, the great tragedy is these children here. And up the hill, yes, up the hill, that orphanage, it is true that the children there are mistreated, but... yeah, these children here all died, 4 of them within the span of 7 days. Very, very terrible. And it was actually the grandparents that lived in this house. And they were spiritualists, and they would conduct seances within this house to try to contact the spirits of the children. So very, very different from what you hear about, Old Man Gore locking the kids up at night and the place burning down. It's just not true. The truth is, as far as the orphanage part up the hill is within these people here. The actual house where the children experienced, terrible things is, that house down there in the bottom right-hand corner, which no longer exists. You can actually see it's a 4-story house, by the way. Where... 15 kids all having to take a bath in the same water, and some of the garbage that they had to eat, and they weren't being taught anything at school because they rarely went to school, and just really terrible things. But again, still not the Gore Orphanage.
No. So yeah, legend, good for story time. Truth, I will take the truth any day, especially with stuff like this, because if you don't find the truth, and it just disappears. Spirits lose their voice. So does history.
Yeah, Adam Tillery down here saying, just praising Shauna for saying finding the truth is sometimes better than the legend. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
We love doing that. We love doing that. And that's, talking about the Oak Island show earlier a few minutes ago. I mean, that's what I love about that, is they're digging for the truth. It's not just about digging for the treasure. It's also about digging for the truth. And we're not really digging for treasure with the paranormal.
No.
I think our treasure is in that truth.
Yeah. Yeah. The truth is the treasure there. Right. It's not about any of the stuff that is portrayed on TV, which is what I call story time. So, but it's actually what goes on behind the scenes that some of the people that watch those shows would never be able to sit through, and would find the research boring, and sitting in a room talking to yourself, boring, which is sometimes what it feels like, depends on why you're doing it. Sometimes I feel like no matter what happens, if you're in it for the wrong reasons, it's going to treat you like, if I'm a spirit, I'm not going to want to talk to somebody unless, they're talking to me, not at me. If they're more interested in something they're holding in their hand, that's probably not going to be the truth. I'm probably not going to talk to those people. I'm going to talk to somebody who is talking to me like I'm still there in the room, and essentially I still am. They just can't see me.
Right.
So.
Shannon Grogan asking.
Hey. I know her.
Oh, you know her.
I do.
Okay. Very good.
Yeah.
She asks, how do you find our history about the land my home is on? Well, we have a whole nuts and bolts video on historic research. And so there's a lot of different things you can do. You first go to the old land records. You go to the county clerk's office, and you can find out all the information about the home that the land is on. Who the former owners were. You can find information about tax records, all that stuff. You can go into historical maps, find out how the old land plats were put together back then of that land. So there's a lot of different resources that you can hit. Even newspaper archives, because a lot of times back in the day when they would talk about just a person, this person from this, and they would list their address right in there. You could find out information that way. Because the address a lot of times will show up in the newspaper archives. There's a lot of different resources. We have a nuts and bolts video on that, so you can check that out. Yeah, that would drive my grandfather nuts. He hated that because he ended up in the newspaper a lot for the stamps. He had a massive stamp collection, do a lot of presentations involved with all those different events that they would do. And whenever he'd make the paper, they would put his address in there. Grand Rick Zachary 6693 Palmer Park Boulevard, and he's like, I have this expensive stamp collection, and you're telling them all where it is. You're telling them I have all these things, and you're telling them my address so they can come break in my house. But they used to do that back in the day. In any case, that's a little off topic.
Probably wasn't the same then as it was
nowadays. No, back then you could leave your door unlocked and everything. We both take a tip of C. Here we go. A tip of C. The sip of tea. Jesus.
Peppermint.
One of those
Republic
nights.
of Tea. Peppermint bark tea is freaking amazing.
Yep. So Shannon says, thank you. Well, you're welcome. You're welcome. Yeah, I forget the name of that video. It was an Inside the Upside Down video that we did. So, okay. So, yeah, Tom McNicholas working with Joliet Historical on the prison up there, which is great. Love to see that sort of thing. Yeah, the history behind these locations is really important.
From a paranormal standpoint, it can help unlock some mysteries about who you're talking to. Some people, it could build a relationship with some of these spirits. If you start talking about things that they're familiar with, it's not likely they're going to spark up a conversation with you, because let's face it, that kind of stuff doesn't happen like we want it to. But, they will probably pay more attention to you, and they will probably make attempts to interact more, in intelligent ways. So, yeah, know the history, get to know the spirits at these places. It's, a historical venue, you want to know the history, about everybody that was in it, so you can at least narrow down, who you're talking to in there. Some places have all kinds of spirits in there, but some places don't. Some may have only one or two intelligent players in it, and the rest of it could be residual, which isn't going to interact with you anyway. But,
And there's Tom McNicholas with a $10 super chat. He says, cheers to history. Thank you very much, Tom. Absolutely appreciate that, as we always do. Thank you. Yeah, using the history as a trigger object, to talk about that a lot. Because you go into some of these locations, your first time in there, and the spirits don't know you from anybody, so they have some of that history to back up why you're there and why you want to talk to them. It beats going in there and just talking to my box. If you actually go in there trying to have a conversation instead of trying to treat the spirit like a guinea pig and trying to get them to do parlor tricks, when you just sit down and have a conversation, we believe that is a much better method to build that rapport with the spirits that are there, and get those better reactions from them, and get maybe even get some actual information from them.
Because I don't like to go in and fly blind. If there's something that I don't want to know, I don't want to know all of the paranormal activity that happens. Because I feel like if I see that, then it might be pre-programmed in there.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't necessarily need to know that. But what I would like to know is, who's in there, names and stuff like that, because you never know going into some of these places if you're ever going to get to go back again. You never know.
You never know.
Get your information, from the start. Know who you're talking to. Not that I was going to say we had the boat for quite a while, but we started finding out some like really pivotal stuff, and then it's like gone. So establish your relationships with these spirits early on. So don't go in there and ask what happens in this room, what happens in that room. In my mind, I blow all that stuff off, because if someone tells me something that goes on and then I experience that, I'm like, well, now I can't really, see that as legit evidence, because my brain's expecting it.
Right.
So then will my brain manufacture it for me to see? I have no idea. So I want to know who these people are, that I'm going to be dealing with. And I'm not going to sit there with a box and wait for a name to be spit out at me. So I don't want to know for that reason. But be like, oh my gosh, they said, so.
And I always throw out the example of, trying to, not trying to act like a salesman, not trying to knock on the door and just do basically a cold call, hey, I'm trying to sell you something, where if you actually know a little bit about the person, you might get an invitation into the home. So Sharon Lane is saying Shauna can get the living or departed to talk to her, in my opinion. You are able to make that happen.
Yeah, it used to be, sometimes stuff happens, sometimes it doesn't happen. I kind of feel like I don't really think that I've ever gone anywhere where absolutely nothing happened. Although there is a spot, where there was really nothing going on, but my own stuff followed me.
Yeah, the stuff that's been following you was, definitely going on at that location. So
yeah, so I kind of have to wonder if sometimes, I wonder if whatever it is that's following me around, if whatever energy is there is like, who the hell's that?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and I don't even know if it's who. I don't know what it is, but it's starting to get bolder. So I don't know. I don't know what it is still.
And so other locations that we kind of talk about as we go through this. So that was Gore Orphanage. We talked a little bit about Oak Island there. But one that has a lot of legends attached to it, of course, is Helltown. This house was standing 2 years ago, and when I took Shauna there, and this was in September 2016, February 2017. It was, it was gone. So Helltown, a lot of legends in Ohio, Boston Mills area. And again, another one of those that you explore the area, and the truth is different than all the stories about chemical spills and aliens and all this other garbage. And you explore the area, you dig into the history, and you learn about the way the government was booting the people out of the town, that it was a land grab. They said it was for the park. They did put in a park. But in my exploration of the area, I'm seeing a transcontinental cable line and a gas pipeline. It seems to me to be more the reason why they're getting people out of the area, at least to live. They want to, bring that stuff through and lay it down. So they also put in a highway over there, but that was actually put in before they were starting to boot all the people out. But it was a big stink. The townspeople that were still there actually got that highway moved south a little bit. So, but yeah, it's one of those where there's so many different legends behind the place. It's sad to go through there now. There's definitely a feeling of sadness. It was just, when you were there, we couldn't go through it all because of how wet it was, but it was just very eerily quiet.
Yeah, it was kind of like a ghost town.
Yeah.
Really, really. I mean, it was just so, just still, you know.
Yeah, it's one of those, you wish the truth could get out there. And I heard a lot of negative things about the show that was done on it. Was it, I think this time last year, October last year, where instead of trying to get to the truth of it, they went down the road of all those different crazy legends that just aren't true. It did look like a really terrible ghost town for a long time, because people were losing their houses and they were leaving them abandoned. Some of them were completely burned out, not because of the crazy things that were going on there, but were burned out because, well, now there are these abandoned houses, and so may as well let the fire department and their guys get some practice. So they would intentionally burn down the houses and try to put them out. So yeah, all kinds of crazy things like that get turned into these legends about witches and whatever. I mean, sure, there's probably some paranormal activity going on there in different people's homes, like we would experience and see in any other person's home on a regular basis. There's no way to know that now.
Mm-mm.
So as far as being a haunted location, maybe, but you just don't know. I mean, there's that abandoned cabin that I was in. It was creepy. I didn't really experience anything paranormal going on there. It was just this real terrible feeling of sadness throughout that whole area. So, from Paranormal World investigators, have you ever investigated anywhere where it was difficult to talk to? Where it's I guess maybe tough to talk to the spirits. Have you ever had that? I've never had any issues of talking into any spirits.
No, I mean, I don't feel like I have. I haven't, you don't hardly, on average, spirits don't usually just throw answers out at you whenever you ask, but I think, I've never had any difficulty, talking or getting a response. I've never had any difficulty getting a response, and that gets easier as time has gone on. Yeah, I don't really think I've had any problems.
G. Wilson asks, is it hard for you to get information on Native Americans? Yeah, it can be, because most of their traditions were passed down orally. There were some things that were written, but very, very few, especially in comparison to how much of it was oral tradition. So, a lot of it's a matter of like becoming involved in the community, and then over time, learning the traditions, and they'll teach you and reveal a number of those things to you. But yeah, I mean, you can get books now of people who have done research on that and have tried to dig some different things up. I know there's some books out there about a lot of the different Hopi legends and things like that. So it's a matter of what people have put together now, not like things that were put together a couple hundred years ago, and we still have those as a recorded record. Is some of the sadder things that some of the cultures that did do that, like the Aztecs, they had significant written records. The Spanish, when they came in and destroyed the Aztecs, also destroyed most of their written texts. Very little of it that actually survives. So so you have some things like that too. So it is difficult. It's difficult to track down a lot of that information. Also from Judy Wilson, have you ever checked out the Mothman? I was wondering what that really was. I haven't been to Point Pleasant. I don't think you have either. So
nope. I know people that have.
Yeah, I know people who've been there. I of course know of the legend, and what's interesting about the Mothman sightings are like the sheer number of them. During a time where people weren't really sharing that kind of information around. You know, it's not like there was an internet back then, and if people were, you know, posting a bunch of sightings to a forum or whatever. You know, it was a lot of individual reports. You know, once you collected them all, it was like, wow, that's a lot. So that's what I find interesting about it, where some of these other, you know, different legends that have been passed down over the years, that was like, you know, there were a handful of people that reported that. And so the legend continued on without any additional reports. But the Mothman one, you know, was over, you know, a pretty decent period of time, and there were so many different reports that it was like, yeah, I got to think about that one a little bit. But I haven't done significant research on that. So, let's see if you guys have any other questions. And then, so some other locations that, you know, historic exploration on that we found pretty interesting. Okay, so that was Helltown. Now it's all black, I know, because I didn't, there we go. I didn't get that one ready before I blocked the other one out. Sorry about that. So this is the Campsvile Grade School. And this is in Shauna's hometown. And what's really interesting...
I went to school there.
Yeah, Shauna went to school there.
Yep, for about 7 years.
Yeah, and... you guys have probably seen a lot of the videos that we have on this. Well, maybe many of you have. I don't know. We may have some newer people in there watching, lurking, that sort of thing.
Binge watch.
Binge watch, yeah. What's interesting about this school is not just the paranormal activity that we experienced there, but in trying to discover why some of this activity was happening. Why we were always hearing footsteps on a second floor that didn't exist. You know, there's no second floor here. You can see it's all one floor. The taller middle section there is basically the stage off the gym, but it's still all one floor. You know, we were experiencing, you know, we saw a shadow person there. There was an apparition that showed up in a video. There's a lot of things that we experienced there. That was a time where, you know, you had to walk away. You know, you had heard something or felt something. You know, we caught EVPs, a couple of them right around that time. You had to walk away. Yeah. So a lot of different things happening. And doing the research, and mentioned before about where to go for getting additional information. This is one where, yeah, we were hitting the county clerk's office, and we were looking through old texts, old books on the location, and discovering different information about the schools there, because we were trying to think, okay, was there another building that was here before that had 2 stories? You know, we'd heard about another school being nearby. Turns out it was like next to it, faced a different direction, but wasn't exactly on the spot. So a lot of those sorts of things. But we also discovered that there had been an archaeological dig site here, a Native American one, as it so happens. And you can actually still see it here. The terracing in the back of the school from where the dig site had been. So you have this flat piece of land. I didn't get the front of this, but this is already on a terrace. So this is a baseball field that's already on a terrace. And you look behind the dugout there, and that goes up a hill to where that other white building is up there. And then back behind that white building, you can see another terrace there. So you can see the terracing that goes all the way down into the school building. So the school building is sitting in the dig site.
Yep.
And came up with I finally came up with a reason, a theory about why we were getting those footsteps up on a second floor that didn't exist.
Yeah, because the footsteps were residual, obviously. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say, you know, it was walking when I told it to walk. You know, it was not intelligent, and not all energy is. So, you know, you have to deal with that. But we couldn't figure it out, and had gone back so far and was only finding buildings with 1 story, and knew that, you know, and kind of thought maybe the only other alternative is if there was ever a building, you know, with a 2nd story, it was not documented. And how would you find it? You know, if it was before, you know, because you know, they only document back so far. So if it happened before that, we were pretty much screwed. And then
I'm going to pop this back up. It may not be the best angle, but with the terracing, they dug and they put the school in a hole. So basically that lowers the original footprint of the site. So there had been a hill there that came down. And so, like, was it Bree Jones that said that there was a longhouse that was there, a Native American longhouse? And they had to, of course, have a reason for digging there for Native American, artifacts. Okay, longhouse makes sense. Native Americans lived in longhouses. So if there had been a longhouse there, it would have been on that hill, which is now dug into and down. So that second floor that doesn't exist, basically to us the attic, is where the ground of that
it would have been the ground floor. So it makes sense to hear footsteps on a ground floor. That's where people would be walking.
Yeah.
The attic is more or less just a crawl space. I mean, you can't even...
Yeah, it's just rafters. There's nothing there to walk on. So there's no surface that would make...
Right.
It's just, we have the videos out there, and I don't know how many times we've shown the clips on these shows. You can distinctly hear those footsteps. There's no mistaking it at all.
I have pictures of my dad getting up there in the crawl space on a ladder, too, looking like, nope, don't see anything here but a big old black snake. you know? So, that was well fed, obviously. But, so that makes a lot more sense now.
Yeah, because longhouses were just one floor. And so, and so that hill would have been built up at that time. And so just walking normally.
I would love to see
residually
a picture of the land before.
We're not going to be able to find that because they wouldn't have taken a photo back then because they were already gone out of the area by then. By the time camera technology came around, it was it was already gone.
I know.
So, but it's really interesting to have had that, and of course, we some of the different things that we experienced, and I didn't include all of it here. You guys have seen it before, and it would be a little redundant. It's not the point of today's episode, but just real quick, there's the shadow person, and I've played around with this photo a few different times. It's actually a clip off of the video, and so this is a black and white version. See, maybe you can see it better in the black and white. So the other thing I wanted to show, I could not find this from Campsville. I could not find the Campsville lock videos except for the ARC video. So this is the Campsville locks. Talking about exploring. This is actually not too far from the schools, right up against the river. You go down the road a little bit and then up against the river, and this old lock system where the boats would come in, and it's filled in with dirt here. But
that, I don't know what that is, and mostly because I wasn't using flash. It hadn't gotten dark yet. And I wasn't using a flashlight. I wasn't using anything. I just point and shoot with my iPhone. That's it. So that thing, and I didn't see it whenever I snapped the picture. So
no, we couldn't see that when we snapped the picture. And we've experienced other things up and down that river. Yeah. We've talked about the possibility of fairies and things like that being around there. This actually predated by a couple of months our first actual visual sighting with our own eyes.
Right.
Of things similar to this. It's obviously moving. It's obviously coming toward my direction, I guess, and it's lighter on the front. So I don't know. But it's really interesting, and that's within the lock system as we're exploring down there. So, and that's another one where, we dug into the history of the locks and got some of the old photos. Because we want to know the truth about, what happened down there with the locks and the different buildings. There were other buildings down there. Yeah. But the vegetation is so overgrown that I think we found one of those building foundations.
Right.
And
you can still see, like, the original lock, system, too. You can see, like, it is so old looking, so it's so cool.
Yeah.
But I would have never known about that.
Yeah, you lived there and you didn't even know that they were there until your dad said something about it randomly.
No, my dad said something. Yeah, and I'm like, well, where's that at? you know? He's like, yeah, just, you know, I'm like, whoa, okay.
Yeah, it's way back in the woods. It's right up against the river, but I guess because those woods are there, you wouldn't have thought to just mess around down there.
Mm-mm.
Yeah. So that's, yeah, he just said something to you one day, yeah, there's some locks down there. And so it's like, all right, let's go check it out.
Let's go do it.
And fortunately, it was dry enough to get in there because, like, the last maybe year or two, there's no way.
No, that area floods so much, you know. Yeah, usually there's no way. But going down in there, you know, when it's a little cooler, where there's no bugs.
Yeah,
that would be the best time to do it. We had
a lot of issues with bugs during that one.
Oh,
that was crazy.
Freaking gnats. We could have made it to there, but there was just this wall of bugs and gnats, and I'm like, nope.
No, we're not going down there.
Nope.
Yeah. So, Christine Jones, what state was that school in that Shauna went to? That was Illinois. That was Campsville, Illinois.
Campsville, Illinois, in Calhoun County. If you look at a map of Illinois, it's where the Mississippi and the Illinois rivers meet.
Yep. Paranormal World Investigators, what's the most interesting object you have found when on one of your investigations? Interesting question. Because we've encountered a lot of different, objects, something that we find along the way. There's like, oh, wow, that's an interesting discovery.
Well,
we come across old newspapers at times.
Well, I remember on a boat that one day or that one night we were there, and you found that like paper that was on the stairs that wasn't there.
That was really interesting. Yeah, I hadn't been there the entire night, and it just like materialized, and it was like a VIP guest list or something. It was written on some paperwork from the boat, one of their little forms or something.
Yeah, was not there before. And then all of a sudden
it's there. Yeah, and I showed on the video that earlier in the night when I'm doing some of the walkthrough footage, it's not there on the stairs, but then at the end there, boom, it was right there.
Yeah.
So.
we at the cafe we had there were those artifacts that were dug up out of the cellar. There's been some cool stuff happen. When we were. At the cemetery that's no longer there, behind Cheney, finding that piece of...
There's that we don't know. We still have to get it tested. That, just one of our explorations, exploring. It's a lost cemetery. It's a lost cemetery in the sense that the bodies are underground and there's a park on top of it now.
Right.
But we noticed by a tree there was something that looked like, at first it looked like a rock that was coming up out of the ground as we were nearing it, but then as we started walking by and taking a look at it, it's like, it doesn't look like it's just a rock. So we went over there and taking a closer look, and it looks like one of because they were supposed to have removed the headstones. They actually used the headstones as
stepping stones. Yeah. Which was just ridiculous.
For the sidewalk, which they eventually replaced with poured concrete. But it looked like the base of one of the monuments that had been there was rising up out of the ground, or maybe the ground was just weathering down, whichever the case. But then nearby was also this little piece of something that it's interesting because when you flick it, it sounds like stone, but the shape of it just is like, this isn't stone. It's just curves up on the one end. It's porous. The underside of it is curved, and it's like discolored brown. So it looks like a piece of bone. And that the brown part with the curve would be where the bone marrow would be, and all that. It's just, and it's porous. And it's funny. We're watching the Oak Island stuff tonight. Last season's. And when they discovered that bone there, it was like, that's kind of spurred that conversation again. Yeah. But you look at their stuff, and I'm like, it's porous, and that's what kind of when we discovered that a few months ago, and I was looking at it, and I'm looking at that's porous. I was having flashes to this stuff from Oak Island. Yeah. So that's why I thought it was bone, and Yeah, but it's still the sound of it is like it's rock.
I would love for it to be rock,
yeah,
or love for it to be bone. I mean,
yeah, but it's not. I don't know. There's still a weird. Even when you flick it and you hear it, it's like it's not as dense as a rock should be, you know. So there's still something weird about it. I don't know.
Well, I think
we have to get it. We have to get it looked at.
Probably take it to the archaeology department and have a little chit chat.
There's that, or just take it to one of the universities. That's what they're supposed to do. Is they're supposed to, one of the university departments, anthropology or something. They have experts that are supposed to be able to test that stuff.
Yeah.
Andrew Cox asks, did digging and building the school disturb the burial grounds? As far as I know, there wasn't a burial ground there. There was a campsite, is what I understand. So burial grounds would be away from the campsite.
There was one in the county, though, where it did disturb.
Well, they excavated it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it did disturb. So heard that story from my friends that are twins, former classmates, who I would still love to get on the show sometime because they are full of knowledge.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and they're twins,
and they have the twin connection.
Yeah,
yeah, which I love that.
Right. All right. So we got a couple of other questions down here. So from Shannon Grogan, can paranormal activity hinder your health? Some people report that where it can.
I mean, yeah. I mean, it depends on, I guess, the level of activity, where if you're really sensitive to it, it can sometimes just drain you. If you're constantly having the sensations of something just always being around you, and it doesn't even have to be anything like malevolent. Malevolent. Why can I not say that word? Malevolent. It doesn't even malevolent. Yeah, it doesn't even have to be some, something terrible or some ancient evil looking to suck your soul out. Doesn't have to be that, but it doesn't have to be that, and yeah, it depends on how you process it. Right. I feel like. Where, let's say we go inside Mineral Springs and there's all this different kind of energy, good, bad, strong, happy, sad, and at the end of the night, it's like, Dove, dark chocolate, please rescue me. It's like, because it's just so mentally and emotionally. Dark chocolate helps,
that's for sure.
It's so mentally and emotionally draining, So I guess it depends on how you process it. In my opinion.
Yeah. From Donna Gorton, what is the absolute most active and creepiest historical location you ever did? I guess investigated.
Well, I have mine.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Hands down, the cafe, for sure.
Yeah.
I've been happy, sad, terrified, I've had every emotion known to man in that place. I've had shit thrown at me. I mean, not me personally, but just it was an angry building sometimes. And I mean, our WTF file was full in that thing because you're just like, where is this coming from? Why is this happening? But that's where research comes in, because you research a lot, and you're wanting to tie stuff together. And then every once in a while we'd be like, oh, epiphany, and then take it out of the WTF file.
Let me ask you something, though. Would that be considered a historic location?
I mean,
it's an old building, but would it really be a historic location?
Right. I mean, there is supporting documentation of events, happening there. It was the site, the building itself is probably not historic, but the property itself could be. And plus, it was also a Native American campsite, too. So the building itself, I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't have any supporting documentation that,
Yeah, because just trying to classify, okay, historical location, I'm trying to think. For me, active and creepiest, maybe it's Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum.
I need to go there.
Yeah, it's great.
That was me whispering for audio. I don't know why that just flipped through my head.
It was you whispering for audio.
That
We're
was
not
me whispering
investigating
for
right
audio.
now, right.
I just, whenever I
Wow.
whisper.
Okay.
Always tag when you whisper.
That's right.
Don't ever peddle that shit as paranormal activity or an EVP. If you whisper, tag it. There.
Yeah.
There.
There you go. Tag
Damn it. Because I hate that.
So, yeah, Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum, I think. I mean, there's so many places I've been, so it's hard to always say. But that place, definitely very creepy. I mean, there was stuff going on when I'm just sitting there, like, doing the book signing. And, you know, not all the locations around it were creepy, but there were a lot of creepy places within it.
You don't ever get creeped out. Anyway, nothing
that
scares
could probably
you.
be it. It's like, yeah, I'll go down to the solitary location by myself and all that. Nobody ever wants to go down there by themselves, but there was
No.
like photos I'd forgotten to get, so I went down there. And but I mean, there was just stuff going on all the time there. I mean, that's where the ball went, you know, bounding off down the hall. I mean, it went from, and basically, it's like, if can you guys see this? Let me see. I'm not okay. There's the live thing. So basically, if you think of this as the wall of the room, and this is the doorway, the ball was sitting here like against the wall. It basically started rolling on its own, all you know, this way along the wall, out the door, and then down the hall.
Dang.
All on its own. It was one of those light up balls, so it just started lighting up, and you know, Copperhead and I are looking like, what the hell? Because we were in the middle of the room, and all of a sudden we see the, you know, flashing light, and we turn around like, what the heck is? There it goes out the door and down the hall, and the other people that were down there are like, you throw that ball at us? No.
I mean,
So that was pretty wild.
Like, I get creeped out. I mean, even doing this, you know, for 10 plus years or whatever, I do not want to be alone in buildings. Like, even the boat, you know, like I could be in a showroom all day, all night, not alone, all night. But you know what I mean? I could be in there alone and be fine out there. But I had this little bubble, this little area where I could be alone and I would be fine. But in any building, it doesn't matter where it's at. Mineral Springs now, that's different. I could be in the pool all by myself and be fine. Upstairs, kinda. Downstairs where the slaughterhouse was, where the springs were, I could be by myself. You know?
Have fun down there.
There's certain spots, you know, but there's certain buildings I just cannot do it, and I find that like if you're being an empath and being able to like shield and stuff like that, if I'm by myself, it's like that switch just gets turned off. And like if I'm by myself, I feel like I'm Candy sitting there, and there's all these energies just getting ready to pluck me up and eat me. And I know that that's a weird, you know, way to look at it, but it's just like, no matter how, you know, persistent I am about turning that off so that it doesn't freak me out, it's just like, you know, and all of a sudden it's just like I can hear, you know, feel everything just bombarding me all at once. But it's not as bad if I'm not alone. So that's
like
something that I need
around.
to work on, you know, that I'd like to work on, because, you know, I don't ever wander buildings by myself like you do. Like, there's no way I could do that.
Just do it.
I can't.
BPG 5012 trick. Which location made you feel most uncomfortable to be at? Good question.
Yeah.
I have to think about that for a little bit.
I wouldn't say every
Not
building.
the cafe, huh?
Yeah, I was in there so much, you know, but every building has had a situation where I felt uncomfortable in it as a situation, but not in the building itself. You know, like, I can't go there, except for basements. I do not like basements. Yet I can go into the slaughterhouse at Mineral Springs, but I hate basements. Cheney is not bad. That basement seemed pretty cool.
Okay.
But basements as a general rule, I cannot stand. I hate basements. Even if it's a brand new modern basement. I hate basements. I don't know why, but yeah, every building that I'm comfortable in, I've had situations where I've been uncomfortable and just couldn't do it. Like that night at Mineral Springs when I decided to go in without having any sort of the crystals that I usually use.
Yeah, you were really...
And upstairs, you know, in an area where I'm not usually... I mean, just every room had something, and I was like, had blinders on the whole way, and I'm like, I gotta go get something, you know, I can't hang, you know, and I was stuck to him like glue. I was like, don't get in front of him, don't get behind me, don't get in front of me, don't, you know, just, it was very uncomfortable that night, for sure.
Yeah. I've been sitting here brainstorming while you've been talking, and I guess because I just don't. And I know it sounds ridiculous, but
Cheney.
I wasn't really creeped out though. I was just.
It was definitely uncomfortable.
It was uncomfortable, yeah.
And painful, apparently.
Okay, uncomfortable. Okay, yeah. The question wasn't creeped out, and that's the way I was thinking of it. Because I mean, I've like walked around Old House at Reformatory in the dark, you know, having an entire wing to myself on my own. So uncomfortable, yeah, because basically it was like the headache pressure against my head that whole time, and so that was just posted. That was just posted on the last Friday night. Well, it wasn't Friday Night Ghost First. It was on Mike's Morning Mug, where I was doing like a little preview of Encounters with Paranormal Volume 4. So nothing from Cheney has been released yet except that clip. So so that was a little sneak peek.
Yeah, we were listening and watching, you know, when you went upstairs, and it. You know, I heard you say, ow.
There was that too. Yeah, then I went back up after the fact because we heard movement on that monitor. And so I went up to go check it out. And then all of a sudden, it was like somebody was stabbing me in the back of the shoulder. Yeah, so as far as like uncomfortable in that sense, as far as physically, I guess I was thinking more spiritually being kind of creeped out or whatever. So yeah, physically uncomfortable, that would be that. Or... you know, there was the time that I almost passed out at Stone Lion Inn. I get like hit with a wave of energy, and it was like, whoa, and I almost passed out. And the K2 went crazy, and yeah, So I guess that would be about it. So Betty Lange asking you, do you ask for permission to investigate a place? Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I know it's cool, and there's a lot of the urbexers out there that just go into places. They don't necessarily damage anything, but they go in without permission. It's illegal. You know, I'm not lucky enough to not get busted, so I just ask permission. And it depends on...
It's a massive liability for the owner.
Yeah, and it depends on the person, you know, and you know. They can tell if you're, you know, shady or not, you know, and just ask, you know, and if they're not going to let you in, be like, do you mind if I take pictures of the outside then? Do you mind if I'm on the property? You know, just ask. You know, I know a lot of cool stuff, you know, slips by the wayside if it's private property and you ask and they say no, or if you don't want to ask and you just want to get in, I get it. I do get it. I understand. But, yeah, we ask.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's good karma.
Say, Tim Schoen, does the history of a property affect the way you investigate it? Well, yeah, I mean, that's why we like going in knowing about the history of a place, is that it gives us a basis to build the investigation. You know, and just the investigative techniques from people in different fields outside the paranormal. I mean, that's what they do. They want to learn as much information as they can about a location going into there, so they know what they're dealing with. And therefore, while they're there on site, they're able to put together the best quality investigation that they can.
You know what era are you dealing with? You know, or you know, are you dealing with, you know, adults? Are you dealing with children? You know, you want to interact in a way that they're going to understand, and then you want to be able to bring something to the table that might appeal to them to make them come out and interact with you. And that's not always going to be, things with bells and whistles.
What had the building been used for?
Right.
Is it, if it's a house, it had always just been a house. Was there a mortuary there at one point in time? Was it used as a boarding house? Was the Underground Railroad there at one point? All those different things, create an entire different history for the location, types of people that could have been there, types of things that could have happened there. Was there a murder there? Were there children that died there for some reason? Was there an epidemic of some sort that greatly affected people? All those things matter, and depending on what those are, you're going to try to communicate and talk to those people differently.
Also, another thing that might be good is to find out if there were any type of events or anything cool going on nearby that they might know about.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it definitely affects the way we do things. So the last thing, I guess, right, would have been, I put all these things together. I spent time doing it and killed myself to do it. So we're gonna talk about it all. There's the Goldenrod. So I talk about exploring historic research. Yeah, we were doing a lot with this. Very, very cool boat to explore, and it had a rich history, as far as its movements up and down the Mississippi, and other rivers as well. The Ohio River, it floated upon and did shows, and a very great piece of early 20th century history. And we were in the process of discovering more things about this when it was suddenly lost.
Yeah. All of a sudden, like a thief in the night.
Yeah. So, yeah, here it is in its early days. You can even see the old car sitting on the deck. So it's kind of like with everything else that we've been talking about. It's a fantastic piece of history that has legends associated with it that we were trying to discover. We were trying to find out more information about. Here it is by the St. Louis Arch. You parked right in front of it, and you can see there's barely anything of St. Louis back behind the arch at this time. Just almost seems kind of crazy, but you hear stuff about Annie and things like that, and you want to get to the bottom of those legends. We've heard the stories, so what's real? We hear all those things about Captain Minky. You met somebody that actually knew Captain Minky.
Yeah.
Annie was associated with Charlie, and then we kept every single time we walked through that one area of the boat, there was always something going on. Yeah. And then come to find out at the very last moment, there was a completely different configuration of that upper floor, and that would have been Charlie's room.
Right. And I was always so uncomfortable up there. There were a lot of times I wouldn't even go back there. I couldn't go back there in that part of that whole kitchen galley area, because something I would always, as fast as I could move from point A to point B, I'd be going through there. And you better not be in front of me when I did it, because I was knocking you over. But it was always just so uncomfortable and strong. It was just so, just negative, but not, scary negative or anything. But it was just too overwhelmingly negative back there that I just couldn't stay back there. Yeah. So it was a chore, whenever we were there, to be in there for any extended period of time. And I could never, understand, why is it so bad for me back here? What's going on? And so sad, too. And so I kind of wonder, who that, could that have been Charlie? That night that got me, because I said, this is not Annie. I mean, it was the same outcome, but it just didn't feel like the same. It just didn't feel the same.
Right. So Bree is asking, who, back to the historic photo, Says, who's the captain-looking guy on the right end of the photo of all those people? Not sure. This would have been before the days of Captain Minky. This would have been back during the Markle days. Just dating the car.
Yeah.
Is how you know that. So this would have been before Minky owned it. So I don't know. I have no idea who that would be. So she says something's drawing her to him. So I don't know what that would be. But yeah, this is really early.
Really early.
Yeah. So a couple other questions here. Donna Gorton, has there ever been a place you just looked at and said, oh, hell no, based on the vibe and history? Not for me. I mean, you would have gone to the basement. So you actually didn't want anything to do with the basement or the lower level of the Goldenrod.
Yeah.
So there's places that you say, oh, hell no, to.
Yeah, and I'd been down there. In fact, whenever we were clearing stuff out of there, I was down there alone, but I figured, I only had just this one opportunity to be down there. And, so whenever we were clearing the place out and I was just like, I am going to have to freaking get over this, like, what the hell? And, but it was so creepy down there, just so creepy. And anytime, I'm like, nope, you guys go. Nope, you guys go. And there was a lot of hell no moments for me going down there. And then finally I just sucked it up and I went down there. But yeah, that's the one, hell no.
I'll say, oh, hell no, if it's like physically dangerous,
Well, it was kind of physically dangerous down there.
How is it physically dangerous down there?
There's a lot of mold.
Okay, in that regard, in that back room, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll give you that.
And the upper area is really
But
not
no, I mean, if
unsafe
something's
either,
just like physically unsafe, like we might fall through the floor, 3 stories or something, then I'm not going to go do that. Like the YMCA, even if we were allowed to go up there, I don't know if I would, on the running track, I don't know if I would have stepped foot on there.
Right.
Because just one fall through, boom.
Right.
Although I would have loved to, at least if there was a safe set of stairs, to go up to the top of there and get some photos, because that was cool. But it's like things like that. If it's physically dangerous, I'm not going to do that.
Moberly.
Yeah, you wouldn't go downstairs in Moberly.
I was like, no. And I'd never even, but there was just
There was something that was definitely down there, because all of a sudden I'm like smelling somebody's BO or whatever out of nowhere. And it's like, okay. Yeah. So, I got Bree's question. Okay. So, Jake Medford. Jake, hey, Jake. Jake says the floor was falling. It was squishy. The floor was a little squishy. Oh, by the way, I am wearing the two big shirt that Jake gave me. There we go. Goldenrod Showboat. Yeah. In fact, that's the photo I was just showing right there, by the way.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Can Jake answer the question about who the guy was on the end of the photo there? I don't know. Yeah, good to see you, Jake.
Yeah. Yeah, I told him we were talking about the boat tonight, so.
Yeah. So we finally got around to talking about the boat. What else do we got? Was that it? I'm sorry. I'm so tired tonight. I just haven't had the energy that I usually do. It's just, yesterday was a long day. Got in very late at night, and I woke up. I should have slept in a little bit longer, but I woke up because I knew I needed to get things done.
Oops.
I knew I needed to get things done, and I had class, which was an extended class today, and then I was just busting my ass to try to get like all the photos and everything ready for today. And there's a lot of things, like scheduling all the posts that go out to Twitter and all the things that I have to do within with the broadcast software. There's so many little things that I have to do. It's like unreal. So, and I worked on that all the way up until I'm bringing Sean onto the show, and yeah. But Shauna has something to share, so we may as well go ahead and do that right now.
Yeah, because I had already painted her. Right?
Wait.
Sarah?
Hang on a second. Bree Jones saying, act Jake Medford, you made that photo. No, it's not Photoshopped. There's nothing Photoshopped about this. I mean, that's on a t-shirt, but there's nothing Photoshopped about the historical. photo.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, this is.
No, that's an actual.
Yeah, that's an actual historic photo from back then. There's nothing photoshopped about that at all.
Mm-mm.
So I don't know where that's coming from. Yeah, Donna's saying I'm just one person. Yeah, but there's only one person that can add everything to the, to everything that I have to do here. So there's no way somebody's in going onto my account and scheduling all the posts and all that stuff. There's that I have to do it. So it is what it is. So and okay, Bree says Jay clarified. Okay. Did I miss that? The one on his shirt is 3 photos combined. Is it? There's 3 photos on here? Okay. I don't know. I'm looking at it upside down anyway. So go ahead and talk about your thing.
Yeah. So I said, whenever I created Zara at the Create Your Own Zombie Doll event at Mineral Springs, which they have every year, that I was thinking about, even though I hate dolls, painting them and selling them if anybody was interested. So it's a little too cold to go yard selling to look for dolls, and but I went to this old antique store that's not far from Mineral Springs. Actually, it kind of hugs it. So and there were some very old dolls, and so I'm thinking about painting this one, which actually, whenever I got Sarah, the reason that I got her is because she looked like the very first apparition that I've ever seen. And this one is even closer because it's a similar dress. So
I like that's an older style dress.
Yeah.
Because that was like a Christmas dress.
Right. And these dolls, they've got some years on them. I mean, and this one's probably my favorite. It's a musical doll. She plays the Nutcracker Suite, but whenever you sit her down and she plays the music, she kind of like rotates and moves a little bit, like she puts her head back, and it's creepy as shit, I'm not gonna lie. And her eyes are always closed, but I'm thinking about painting her too.
Yeah, Donna's saying eBay. So
eBay. But if
those
anybody wants
those would be
one
cool.
and is interested, then you tell me what you want it to look like, and yeah.
All right, here we go. All right, we'll go ahead and wrap it up. Sharon Lane, is this going to end up in a haunted museum? Not Zach's.
Not Zach's museum.
Not Zach's.
No, thank you. Because next thing you know, he'll be getting possessed by my doll, and we ain't gonna go there.
Yeah.
No.
Okay, let's go ahead and wrap up the show. I know a lot of people already bailed out early. Some people weren't feeling well, or they were tired. Everybody's tired. And we're all getting ready for Thanksgiving. There's a lot of shit that we're doing. It's the weather. The weather's been crazy.
It's hot. It's warm. It's cold. It's warm. It's cold. It's snowing. Oh, wait, now it's 50. No, now it's 20 again. It's just, this weather is crazy. It's messing with people's constitutions.
That's it.
Yeah.
All right, so Tom McNicholas saying you can paint dolls to raise money to buy the cafe. Yeah, Tom did post that earlier about have a fundraiser to buy the cafe. It's not about buying the cafe.
Yeah.
The price to buy the cafe it's only $800. It's everything after that.
And the problem is that it's for sale, but it's for sale as is.
You can't even look at it.
You can't even go inside and look to see how bad the damage is or if it's salvageable.
Yeah, because you may end up having to tear it down. So there'd be thousands of dollars incurred in cost to tear it down. If somebody broke in there, which is apparently easy to break into right now, and got hurt, well, you're gonna have a lawsuit on your hands for that. So there's just there's too many additional costs that you could possibly incur with this place. The upfront cost is like nothing for a building,
right?
But it's everything after the fact that's just like, if that wasn't an issue, I'd be willing to say let's go get it. But
I mean, I am confident that somebody's going to let me get in that building before they tear it down, and that's all I need. I just want Like an hour.
And I would just love to get in there and explore a little bit.
I mean, even if I got to come in the back, even if I got to come in the back, even if I could come in from top, whatever, but I want to get in there and at least get closure and say goodbye. Yeah. I mean, I'll even sign something that says, if I fall through another part of the building, what happened at home, just,
right.
Whatever, I've been that way with everywhere I've ever gone. I'm not going to sue the owner of a venue if the place, isn't in good shape. I know going in, if they've been upfront about it, I'm not going to stab them in the back if I get hurt. That's my fault, So I just want to go in there.
Yeah, just want to get in there one time. All right. Let's go ahead and get this wrapped up. So Tom McNicholas, Super Chat Superstar. Thank you very much, Tom, for your Super Chat. And everybody who gives a Super Chat is a Super Chat Superstar, by the way. So, all right. So, shout outs. Thank you, Donna, for Cheshire Catting the chat this evening. Donna Gorton, our Cheshire Cat in the house, and old Bonnie Halperin's out there somewhere. So let's see, BPG 5020 trick or 5012 trick. Thank you very much for joining us this evening. Christine Jones, thanks for joining us. Everybody's down there saying happy Thanksgiving. Yes, happy Thanksgiving to everybody in America that's watching. I know we have a lot of international viewers as well, but for those of you in the United States, happy Thanksgiving. It's coming up here on Thursday. Earliest possible Thanksgiving you can have, by the way. Luna Nocturno, thanks for joining us tonight. Fairy Queen Diane Hilbert, happy birthday. Greg Grinkin, thank you for joining us tonight. Bree Jones, thank you as well for all your feedback. Paranormal World Investigators, thank you very much for joining us tonight. Thanks for all the questions, by the way, guys. You guys had quite a few. Sharon Lane, thank you as well. Let's see, we also had, there's Andrew Cox. Andrew Cox is one of our Deep Down the Rabbit Hole Patreon patrons. So those are Tom McNicholas, Beat 3 Airspace, Zippy Davis, B.D. Flint, Pamela Queen, Andrew Cox, and Joe Chandler. Thank you all very much. You can also support us out on Patreon, patreon.com/hauntedroadmedia. And we do have some behind-the-scenes stuff coming up on there. And also we need some questions for the Patreon Q&A. So you guys always throw a bunch down here. So for you Patreon patrons at that level, throw some questions that way too. So there's Shannon Grogan. Thanks for joining us tonight. Judy Wilson, thank you as well, and for all of your questions. And Nellie Moen, thanks for joining us again tonight. Good to see you down there. We also had Candy Orton. Thank you, Candy. Hope you have a good night. I think she may have already taken off.
Jake Medford.
Jake Medford is in the house. He's right there. Jake Medford, good to see you tonight, buddy. Who else do we have? So there's Tim Schoen, of course. Thank you about that. See, Judy Wilson, were you able to find anything out? I don't know what that's in reference to. I missed this question, though. I think I said Greg Grinkin earlier. So, there's Katie Palmer. And
Adam Tillery was
Adam Tillery lurking somewhere in there. I know. Especially since I mentioned Oak Island. Well, he threw a couple comments down, like he's let me know that the Gary Drayton was the guy with the metal detector, and I said archaeologist guy. That's Laird Niven. I know. All right. So Interface Death. Hey, there's Justin Brown. Good to see you, Justin. Cool. Sorry you popped in late. We're wrapping up the show, dude. That's all right. That's all right. Good to see you down there. So
watch the replay.
There's Adam Tillery. Happy Thanksgiving, Haunted Road Media family. Absolutely. All right. So we're gonna go get some dark chocolate and peppermint bark tea and blueberries. And
I ate my chocolate before I got in here.
Chocolate. Oh.
I know. I know.
All right. Well.
It was looking at me. It was talking to me. My chocolate.
It does that to me sometimes.
My chocolate talks to me.
Your chocolate was talking to me last week.
Yeah, I know. That's twice now. He ate my dark chocolate twice.
I did.
It's like, look, I know I have more than one thing of chocolate.
I told you to replace it.
And then he didn't. The first one. Ate my chocolate, didn't replace it.
I just got back from Ohio. I'll replace it.
It's okay. It's okay. You don't have to. You don't have to. I will somehow.
I love you.
I love you. I will somehow make it. You know. So.
Then Jake says, to the pit.
Yeah, to the pit.
Tom McNicholas says, I didn't show the cat print. Yeah, it's not out here. It's in the house. I brought it in, showed Shauna last night. Like I said, I was busting my butt to try to get everything done for this evening. And usually Monday night is when I set up a lot of stuff for Tuesday, but I had work and I was traveling. So like all the the inside, the upside down, because basically, if you've noticed, Sunday night I put out the stuff for Edge of the Rabbit Hole. Monday night I put out the stuff for Inside the Upside Down. Well, I didn't put anything out for Inside the Upside Down last night because I was traveling. That includes all the artwork too, all those thumbnails for Inside the Upside Down. There's three different versions of that thumbnail. For Edge of the Rabbit Hole, there's two. There's the one I put out on Facebook, and then there's the one I actually put out there for YouTube. So there's all the artwork that goes into it too. And I didn't have, the only thing I had done was the Facebook thing for Sean on Sunday night. So basically it was from like the moment that I got up today, I had to do everything that I usually do on Monday and Tuesday. And and I had that extended class today, so it was a 2.5 hour class instead of an hour and a half. So it just, yeah. So yeah, I was rushing at the end to get out here, and I forgot to grab the cat photo. So
yep, it's cool though.
It is pretty cool. I'll show it next time.
Yeah,
We'll bring it out here.
eventually the studio will have all of everything up. We're gonna have to take a day.
We're gonna have to take a day and just do this place, because I think all that stuff over there is coming down. And we'll put things up on that wall. We have the big shelf there that we can do a lot of things with, and then we'll show all you guys that stuff.
My studio, my art studio over there.
Shauna's I'm clearing that off over there, so Shauna can do all of her dolls over there. So she got a lot of room over there now. Yeah.
The only thing that I don't have is like antlers. I want to make a Wendigo doll.
Yeah.
And I couldn't find anything. And you should have seen the look on the lady's face at the Godfrey Walmart whenever I walked up to her and said, I have a really weird question. But do you have any antlers? She goes, oh, Christmas antlers. I'm like, no. I'm going to be gluing them to a doll's head.
I'm sure she gave you a weird look for that.
And she was like, and so we sat there and like looked at each other for a minute. I'm waiting for her to piece it together in her mind, and I said, I'm going to start painting and assembling creepy dolls. And so I need one to have horns, or more accurately, antlers. She was like,
She probably didn't even know how to respond.
She was like, we have pipe cleaners. I was like, oh no, I need something a little harder than that.
Yeah,
I'm talking about
the real freaking
antlers, so yeah, I need to look for that. Awesome. So I'm thinking Amazon.
You might have to. All right, everybody. That's going to do it. We will see you on, we'll have a Friday Night Ghost Frights, and we'll see you next week, of course, for Edge of the Rabbit Hole and Inside the Upside Down. So, again, thank you very much, and let's go inside. Take care. Have a great night.